YouTube? Ryan, North Georgia RC here. Today on the bench we've got Tommy's SCX6 transmission. I don't know if you saw in the last video, he had no drive on the front. It was just grinding and cracking real bad. Differentials were fine, so we determined it was a transmission. We've got some gears here to replace the ones that are broken. Fast Eddie's bearing kit. We're gonna go ahead and replace all the bearings, because when I did open it up before, I found the broken gears and some bearings that had just rusted out. We've got some ProTech waterproof grease that we're gonna use after we replace everything. So let's go ahead and dig into ripping this out. First, I went ahead and took off the shift servo, and first step's gonna be the bracket, and then we got a bunch of screws, and this whole casing will kind of come apart. It's nasty on the inside of this thing. Go figure. So I'm gonna go ahead and rip this thing apart, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so that's the what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts off the back once you get the shift servo bracket off, and then you've got this little dude here that the shift servo actually pushes the shifter linkage. So we'll crack this housing open and kind of pull it off the back side. As you can see, it's quite disgusting between the grease and the water and the everything. So what else do we need to do? All right, we're gonna start pulling these shafts out piece by piece, setting them to the side. I don't know what everything is called, so we're just gonna call them what I think. This is the one shaft. See what I think they are. This shaft is the front output shaft, because that's what the front drive shaft hooks to. And then we've got, oh, this thing's still got water in it. Disgusting. And then we've got this here. It's got another little shaft with it that is actually where the bearing had failed, was the one that went down inside of this guy right here. And then I think one of the other bearings failed too. Anyways, they're all rusty, so we're gonna take them all apart. This main shaft here, see if you can see it. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit while my hands aren't tear up my camera. So this shaft here is where it's got the busted gears, but the shift link and everything comes out with it. So we'll set this shifting Y aside. But you can see these gears here pretty much no longer. That's the one that spins, that hits the second gear, which sends the power to the front drive shaft. So I need to go ahead and grab some towels, paper towels, and the 10 mil pull this spur gear off. So hang tight, I'll be right back. All right, we're back. For those of you curious, it is an 8 mil for this nut that holds on the slipper clutch. And see if we can get this thing broke loose. Well, how are we gonna hold it? Oh, these pliers suck. Let's see if I can grab a hold of the whole gear. Here we go. Putting that together will be a different story, because it's got to be done right. So we'll pull that off. The whole spur gear and slipper clutch assembly with the rear plate. Then this shaft will come off like so. You got a little aluminum bushing here. And we've got, what, 3 more screws to come out. All these screws are 2.5 millimeters, by the way. Okay, sorry. 5 more screws, 2 more at the bottom. Somebody needs to call Micro. This is a dirty job. I don't even think he does that anymore. All right, so we're gonna start with this front part of this housing. Get it cleaned up the best I can with these rags. Grease, when it breaks down and mixes with water, is probably one of the nastiest feeling and smelling things. Let's see, what am I gonna do with all these dirty rags? I'm gonna try not to mess this table up. It's not mine. Let's see how good we can get it. Doesn't have to be 100% because more grease is going back in it, but you want to get the water and the majority of the old grease out of it, just so that you don't ruin the new grease that's going in it. You can see this bearing here is rusted. Actually, looks like this transmission housing is a little messed up too. We'll see if I can get this bearing out or not, because it looks like the other half of the bearing is broken and seized onto the shaft possibly. No, but there is a space. Okay, that's actually built into the shaft. Okay, cool. Much easier. We'll see if we can get this wheel tool to pop these off. Let's use my makeshift hammer. There it goes. And I don't know if that's melted transmission housing or what. We'll see if the new gear slides down into it. Break out this 3.0, scratch some of this garbage out of here, get it cleaned up. All right, that's looking good. Now I don't have the exploded view with me to see what bearings go where, but it doesn't really matter because none of these bearings are labeled as to where they go. So we're just gonna dump them out and figure out which ones are which sizes. So this one, not that one. Looks like this one. It's either the wrong size or the housing is wallered out. I think it's the wrong size. You'd want a hair bigger. It doesn't fit. Let me grab my micrometer. Try to ease down on the guessing game. So the old bearing that came out, width on it is 16.6 millimeters. It's 15.9. Okay, so it looks like there is some plastic wallered out onto this bearing. So none of the bearings fit because the front of this housing is shot. I don't know how fast we can get another one, so we'll set that aside for now. We'll see if we can get some of these other bearings out. Let's see if I can figure out what bearing goes down in there. That's the rear output shaft bearing. That's this one. Let's see if we can get it off. Go ahead and zero out the mic again. 15.93. which is pretty much what all of these are. Slide those in. I have a feeling that all of these are the same. There's a lot of the same size. So I don't have all of my tools with me because I'm home for the holidays. We're trying to get ready for a Christmas crawl, which now, judging, I don't know if this is gonna happen. but we're gonna try it anyways. Let's see what we come up with. All right, these bearings that came out should be all the same size, and they are. So now I just need 3 more. 1, 2, 3. So the good thing about this is the majority of these bearings are all the same size on the inside diameter. Those are the ones that came out, the ones that are going in. You can see a lot of that visually. You don't have to have a super keen eye for it, but it's all just making sure it's the same size where the shaft is going to slide down into the middle of the bearing and where the bearing seats into the housing. So that's the rear part assembled, and we have the mid section, which is just a greasy nightmare as well. Looks like we should have one bearing that sits down in here for the what was that, the front output shaft for the front axle. You can feel some of the teeth that have broken off inside of here. It's fantastic. It's crunchy. All right, now we're gonna get that bearing out, which is gonna be quite hard. Well, maybe not. Now let's see what size this one is. Same as the others. Yep. You can tell if you've got it seated right, because you can see that the gap between this plastic and the bottom of the bearing is gone. You can kind of feel it set in there too. All right, so that's the, excuse me, housings with bearings. Now we've got other bearings inside of gears and whatnot, and this has probably got C-clips on them. I don't know if this is the factory grease that comes from Axial in this transmission, but it is quite stringy, like pie filling or something. It's nasty. Not stinky, luckily. At least not anymore. It was a little bit ago. So now it is just pulling off this C-clip without losing it. Okay, well that worked. Came off. Now, where'd it go? It bounced, I heard it, but I don't see it, so we'll keep the disassembly process. So we've got, it looks like 2 bearings. This doesn't need to come off. This is your grabbing piece. Then you got 2 bearings. One goes in the back, one goes in the front of the gear itself. And they are the same size as the others. 1 and 2. Put that one there. That one there. Slide that in. Shit, now I gotta find that C-clip. All right, well, after a good 30 minutes or so looking for the clip, I found it. It bounced over and was stuck to the edge of the table. And while doing that, I opened the gear bag to see if it came with them, but realized that we're changing out a handful of these gears. So off with this gear again. And just because we have the gears, we're gonna go ahead and change them out. And try not to leave a greasy mess everywhere on Brittany's table because she'll kill me. So we'll pop these into the old, or the new gear, new bearings, new gear, just to make sure that nothing else got damaged on that shaft. And we will try to slide this clip back in. Sweet. Spins nice and free. Look at that. I don't know, can you see that? Ooh, looking good. Now, it came with another one of the shifter plugs, but I'm not gonna change it because why? There's not really a need to. Now, again, I've got another clip here to pull so I can get to these two gears. I'm gonna try this a little different this time. Maybe it won't bounce off of the paper towel. It's not guaranteed, so we'll see. And it did not. Might be onto something here, Jimmy. So that's done. And then on the back side, where your rear drive shaft hooks to, you slide this bushing spacer off. The damaged gear, it's got a pin that sits in it. And then you've got the other gear, whatever this one's called, don't know. Not a professional, don't claim to be. This one's tight. Get my persuader out. Okay. You can yell, scream, and cuss all you want to. They're my tools. I'm gonna use whatever I want to as a hammer, so deal with it. So we got that gear and that gear. Those are basically no good. No bearing in that one. We got the new gear that is not destroyed. And we are going back in with new bearings here. Oops. Get back in there. Now, this gear sets back in. You've got the pin that goes back in the shaft. I really hope y'all can see everything because my microphone's in the way of my screen. Slide this gear back in, nice and undamaged. The bushing sleeve goes back in, and then we come back in with the clip. E-clip, C-clip, B-clip, I don't know what you call it, the clip. And press it into place, and that's it. Everything spins smooth. Should be no more grinding and popping for now. All right, that's that shaft out of the way. These are the three old gears. Get these out of here. Next, we have these are other little bitty gears with this little shaft. And see if we can clean this up a little bit. We're going to come back in with some good grease. So we've got these smaller bearings. There's only like 3 or 4 different size bearings, and that happens to not be the right one, so neither is that, unless that is a piece of bearing. Yep, that's part of a broken bearing. Ah, there it is. So that is, where is the camera? That is the original bearing that obliterated, that started the whole downward spiral of blowing out the gear. So brand new replacement on both sides. Shaft goes back in it. Okay, that's that one. We've got one more like that. Let's see if we can use up a whole roll of paper towels in this video. It's the best I got. There's another bearing. That's 2 more out. And two more of the little babies. Pop those in. Slide the shaft back in. Okay. And then we've got this guy. More clips, yay! The dreaded clips. At least we know that the paper towel worked at least once to keep it from bouncing, so we'll try it again. Hope we don't lose these because they're actually out of stock everywhere. Yep, perfect. It's all about having the right tools, and when you don't have the right tools, everything's a pain in the ass. Especially when there's not a bearing on that particular piece. Yeah, that's easy. Alright, here's that one. How many bearings we got here? No bearing there. No bearing there, no bearing there, no bearing there. Is this the transmission? Okay, so this is a kit for the whole SCX6. I thought it was just a transmission bearing set. I said, man, it looks like there's a lot of bearings compared to what we got in the field, so it looks like that's all the bearings have to be replaced. There's not a whole lot of them, luckily. So now we get to attempt the reassembly, even though we're missing that bearing, and there's nothing, unfortunately, that I can do except just stick a bearing in there for now, knowing that it's got to be replaced again, which is really a pain in the ass. But let's see. Yeah, that bearing's just going to continue to fall out. So now we'll come back in, clean our hands up a little bit. I'm going to put this front housing back on with the 5 screws, and then start reassembling the shafts with the gears on them and getting them slid in. Always one drill. Okay, that's the front of the housing. Now, I'm gonna place some of these gears back in solely to the fact that I want to make sure that I get everything right before I go covering it with grease, because I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen my other videos where I go ahead and put everything in, grease it up, and here I am taking it apart again because, well, I didn't count the teeth like the instructions said. I just went by, oh, that looks right, yeah, and it's never right. So we're gonna do it the smarter way this time. Live and learn, right? I'm just gonna finger tight this. It does have a carbon fiber slipper clutch, so that's, you can see how waller that bearing is there. Let's see if I can remember how this thing goes back together now. This, your front output, and you got this little guy here. Yep, okay. So, this guy, yeah, I'll pull this back off. This guy goes here. Like that, and it gets the arm, okay. Good. So now that I know where that one goes, I'm gonna go ahead and grease these gears up. Ah! There's so much grease. Okay, where are we at? Waterproof grease. You don't have to grease the ever-living shit out of these things like a lot of people do. I used to think that, but you really don't. Just a nice bead of grease on the gear. It will mesh, or when the gears mesh, it will cover everything. These gears are not going to rust. You're going to lose bearings before you lose gears to rust. That's just how it is. Okay. That one is back. Oh shit. Almost forgot this guy. Your shifter doodad. And there's a hole that this pin slides down into as your bearing sits that actually lets that not pull out all the way, which is nice. Okay, it's set in there. We'll slide this guy back together. These are always fun on these bearings on either side of the gears. Now, shit. Which way does that go? One of these bearings doesn't sit down in there all the way on purpose. Okay, so this gear, this bearing protrudes out a little bit, and that's to give you a spacer. And that's the side that you want facing towards the rear. So that way all of your gears sit flush elsewhere. Grease that bad boy up. Slide it into its home. Just like so. And then you've got this guy, which goes in, what, this way? I think that gear grabs there, that gear grabs there, that one grabs underneath, just like that. Where's this one go? Anybody remember where this one goes? There? Yep, okay, cool. Now, we've got this little, I don't know if y'all can even see me, my back hurts. I'm not sitting in my chair, so I'm leaning back, trying to make sure that y'all can see everything and make sure I'm comfortable in the process. Now this is good grease, at least what I'm being told. I like the way that it comes out. It definitely looks like a good solid grease. I was told by the guys at my local hobby store that it's the same grease they use for the cables on boats. It's just the Protec Premier Blue O-ring grease. It's the first time using it. I just built another set of VS 410 D44 Axials from one of my TOFs that I got. I haven't used it, but it seems to be good so far. It's got good tackiness to it. It's thin but tacky, not too thick, not too thin. So it seems to be working great so far. See if we can get that guy in there like so. And then spin some of these gears up. Okay, so we got some grease distributed now. You can hear that clicking. That's because that bearing's shot, which luckily it'll be an easy replace. You just pull the front of the housing off, pop the new one in. Well, pull the front of the housing out and replace that housing, since this one happens to be messed up pretty good. So we got these bearings replaced, all those bearings in there, new gears set. This is where your little shifter doodad will go. So now I'll just slide this back on. Make sure you get everything lined up. Once it slides in, you just kind of wiggle around till all the shafts sit inside the bearings on this back plate, like so. And then you've got one, two, oop, I did that last time too. That's the wrong location for that screw. I'll try to get up underneath it. It's too short. That's where the long one goes, on the top side. And then All these other ones go right into spots, like so. Tighten them down on one. Okay. That's just not going to do anything. The rest of the gears are nice and fixed, but you can tell you don't get a full 360 out of it because that bearing you can't put the bearing in because it's the front of the housing is wallered out. So yeah, I mean, that's it. We're gonna put this little screw back on it for the shifter, pop the shift servo back in it, and clean this mess up. So that is how you replace a couple of broken gears and all the bearings inside of your Axial SCX6 transmission.